I just want to preface this video. There's spoilers. I'm going to talk about, obviously, the episode, and I will be talking about some things in the game. So kind of take this as spoilers for the show itself and, The Last of Us Part 2, the game. So that's your warning. If you don't want to get anything spoiled, I might slip up and say something about like the future, something that hasn't happened yet at this point. So yeah, you've been warned. So today we're talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5. I have a script. I kind of noted my thoughts down. So if I'm just staring like this, and talking, it means I'm reading something. I'll try to not directly read what I have down, and I'll try to kind of speak to the camera, to you, viewer. That's what I'll be doing if I'm just staring here, but I'll try to address you. We're going to talk about the narrative first. Honestly, I think this episode was stronger than the previous episode. If you watched my previous one, I feel like we kind of strayed away from like the theme of revenge. In this episode, we see Ellie kind of get re-driven to get revenge. We see her play the guitar. We hear Future Days a little bit, and then she just kind of like she locks in, which I'm like, hell yes, Ellie, lock in finally. And Dina, she tells this story where she basically loses her, her family to just some guy that, just raided their house or whatever. She had to kill him. And I think this was really good, character development for Dina. It was interesting to hear, what she's been through. I think we're getting more of a focus on, Dina. She's starting to feel a little bit more like a main character, which I'm not complaining. Dina is interesting, but she shouldn't be the focus. She shouldn't be the one that's more angry and the most driven to get revenge. She shouldn't be more vengeful than Ellie. And it feels like that's kind of what's happening. Ellie isn't as vengeful, it seems. I don't know. We are starting to get the ball rolling when it comes to, that anger, that sort of vengeance. So I'm happy with that. That's good. So I want to talk about spores real quick being reintroduced, or I guess not reintroduced, they're being introduced in the show, because in season 1 they were removed, they were omitted, because in season 1 they made a whole point of like, oh yeah, we're not going to include them because it gets in the way, the characters have to put a mask on, covers their faces. It's a TV show, we have to see the expression on their face, and if they have to put on a mask like every other scene, it's gonna break the immersion. It's just gonna be in the way of storytelling. First of all, I thought that was BS. I don't know. I think that they could have easily still implemented spores in the first season. They could have done what they're doing now in season 2. They could have established that back then, because what they're establishing in season 2 is that these spores are in these enclosed spaces that have been infected for years, and that could have been established in season 1. They didn't do that, and they just kind of were like, yeah, we don't like masks, so that's why we're not going to put them in. And I understand the original intention of including spores, like the masks over the faces, I get it. You got to see the facial expressions. I don't think this should have stopped them though. They could have introduced the spores in season 1. Even with masks, I think it's completely possible to still act and perform using your body, not just your face, your body, your voice. Like there's physicality when it comes to acting. It's not just facial expressions. Superheroes wear masks. A good example is Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. There's some scenes in Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where like Andrew Garfield is being very expressive with his body. And I think that is something any actor could do if they are good enough actors, like it's not impossible to act and be expressive with the rest of your body, not just your face. So I don't think that the whole mask situation should have stopped them. I mean, I get it, but it's not impossible. It just feels like maybe they wanted to just cut that corner, make it easier on them, just remove the spores. And at the end of the day, I guess I don't mind it too much, because the whole spores and how, they develop over time in enclosed spaces, that adds to world building. It's kind of adding to like an evolutionary aspect of the cordyceps, because In season 1, I think it's okay to have like, you know, you have your runners, you have your clickers, and you have your bloaters. And that's kind of like the first 20 years of, you know, like the cordyceps evolution. And then add another 5 years, it's like, oh, like the cordyceps is advancing even more. It's developing stalkers, it's developing spores and stuff like that. And maybe more we'll see down the line, hopefully. It's just the awkward kind of walk back from season 1. It's like, oh, we're not going to do this because this and that. And then, oh, never mind, we're going to do it now. It's like, okay, like you could have just done it from the start. There was a way to do it. Tommy and Jesse, we finally see them in Seattle. Well, kind of. We know Tommy is somewhere, but we don't see Tommy. We only see Jesse. We're told that Tommy, you know, split up from Jesse somewhere else. So hopefully we see Tommy soon. We know he's out here, but Jesse, he is here. We have him. And this is different from the game. I know it's shouldn't compare the game, but it's kind of hard not to. From what we see in the episode so far, the sole reason Tommy and Jesse leave Jackson is to go after Ellie and Dina, not to get revenge. And that's kind of a big deal to me because Tommy leaves for revenge, explicitly for revenge. And Jesse, he leaves because he's, you know, loyal to Dina and Ellie. He's like, I'm a ride or die. I'm gonna go with them because, you know, they're my friends. In the game, when Jesse finally catches up to Ellie, he says something along the lines of, "You really thought I was gonna let you do this on your own?" That line is like a declaration of his loyalty and his commitment, you know, to being with them and helping them get revenge. Like Jesse's also on this revenge quest. In the show, he's pissed off. He doesn't want to be there. He tells Ellie, like, "You really think I want to talk to you right now?" Like, he's pissed off because he doesn't want to be there. He's not there for revenge. Both him and Tommy, it seems. We haven't heard from Tommy. We don't know what his actual thoughts are at the moment. But currently, it just seems like they're just here on an errand just to rescue them and bring them back. Not for revenge. As for Tommy right now, you know, originally he left on a revenge quest, you know, to avenge Joel. But in the show, it seems that he's fully committed to ensuring Jackson's safety, which makes sense. That's fine. But sending him with Jesse to save Ellie and Dina makes it look like he doesn't really have an interest in revenge and is only coming to collect them and bring them back home. I only hope that the 4 of them all meet back at the theater at some point, and for whatever reason, he insists on staying to find Abby. This would give us the Tommy crash out that we all want, but it feels weird now because it's after a weird detour of him kind of, you know, not wanting to go out for revenge right away, but then suddenly wanting to get revenge. I mean, I think that could still work. You know, obviously he has to think about Jackson, so he's gonna try to do something, you know, organized, you know, hold a vote like we saw in episode 3. So maybe now that he's like has an excuse to go save, you know, bring back Ellie and Dina, he might be like, okay, I'm already here. I'm going to go get the revenge that I think Joel deserves. Like, he deserves to be avenged, so I'm going to do this while I'm already here. That might be what they're going for. I hope that's what they're going for, because I guess that would make the most sense, in my opinion. If he uses, you know, Ellie and Dina as an excuse for himself to go and get revenge, you know, while he's out there. Seraphites. Oh my god. I love the Seraphites. Honestly, I think they're, like, far more interesting than even the WLF. The scene with the Seraphites is really interesting. I really enjoyed it, and the whistles triggered my fight or flight. My ears perked up like a dog, and I was just like, what? So this scene seems like a blend of the mission with Abby, where she's like tied up, the mission where Ellie fights the Seraphites. We see the same scenario with, you know, one of the scars cutting open. I'm assuming a wolf. And obviously the mission where Ellie kills Nora, like she does in the show. I guess this scene feeling like, you know, all of those missions rolled into one is fine. I just hope we still get to see Abby in that same scenario, you know, of being like hung up. I hope we don't lose, you know, moments like that. This whole Seraphite scene, I liked it. It was pretty cool. I think that one girl, what's her name from Diary of Wimpy Kid? Patty something. Greg Heffley's biggest op. I think she's a Scar. Make your move. She's here. Run. So the end of the episode. Oh my God. Ellie kills Nora. They did a very good job with this. They kept it pretty much like the game, 1-to-1. Not 1-to-1, but you know, the red lighting, Ellie just kind of zoning in, just fully unleashing her vengeful side of herself. We've been wanting to see this. She's been super chill. She's been happy-go-lucky. Like, that's not what we've been expecting from her. And to finally see her just, you know, black out, basically. It seems like she gets so angry. Her hatred just takes over her. My one criticism is that I think in the game, she doesn't explicitly say, like, that she knows what Joel did. I might be wrong. So, you know, if I'm wrong, correct me, of course. But I think in the game, they make it a little bit more ambiguous whether or not Ellie knows what Joel did by that point. But in the show, she's like, yeah, I know. I wish they kind of kept it more ambiguous because we're gonna see that scene, but I feel like we shouldn't know yet that she knows. Hopefully they still do that scene justice of her, you know, finding out, you know, the truth. Aside from that, this scene was good. I'm happy with it, and hopefully this sparks something in her that carries the hatred over throughout the rest of the season. Like, I'm hoping this, like, flipped the switch and she's, like, bloodthirsty now and she's like, next. The cinematography, the lighting in the hospital, you know, that red light, chef's kiss. I was kind of expecting them to do that because the whole kind of the title cards of the season, you know, they're, you know, it's all red. So I'm like, there's no way they're not going to make that scene red. Like, it has to be red. So they did good on that. The lighting in the forest with the Seraphite, you know, ritual, that was great. They nailed that. I don't know if it was exactly, you know, the way that the game was, but it looked good. The spores, you know, that was great. The way that we see them, you know, floating around in the light, that was well done. The sound was pretty good. Hard to mess up the music for this series. I mean, it always goes hard. Like, if you've been a fan of the series since the first game came out, you know that the music is just somber, sad, but hopeful at the same time. Not to mention the whistles, you know, the whistles alone. Oh my God, that just the sound of that is just so pleasing. The effects, like I said, the spores and the infested rooms, you know, they were well done. There's something amazing and sort of beautiful about the way the cordyceps grows, and they did a great job with this. The soldiers stuck within the fungus and like shooting out spores out of their mouth. Yeah, that was sick. Like, when I saw that in the preview of the previous episode, I was like, no fucking way, dude. They're adding spores and they look so good. So the narrative overall, I'm giving it 40 out of 50 points. Cinematography, 20 out of 20. Sound, 10 out of 10. Effects, 10 out of 10. They did really well this episode. And I'm giving it 4 bonus points for the whistles and the spores. I love spores. I missed them, and now they're back. I just wish they were back sooner. Overall, 84 out of 100. That's a B. Vast improvement from the previous episode, which got a C. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any disagreements, or if you agree, if you have any comments, just concerns in general, anything you want to say to me, leave it in the comments. So yeah, make sure to like if you enjoyed, comment like I said, and subscribe for more. I'm planning to do the rest of the season. But yeah, I'm gonna go now. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.